So how did Ciryl Gane expose Tom Aspinall in their fight at UFC 321? Well, he exposed Tom's weaknesses. And what's interesting is we really hadn't seen any of Tom's weaknesses because his fights finish so quickly, and maybe because of the caliber of fighter that he was fighting. And I don't mean to disrespect any of the fighters that he did fight, but what Ciryl Gane does well, I don't think a lot of those other fighters did. And we're going to talk about specifically what those things were. And there's about 6, 7 of those things. 6, 7. I just watched the South Park episode. I'm not up with the kids, but I'm up with South Park, and I'm dying laughing at that episode. So anyways, number 1, length and reach. Tom Aspinall doesn't have that gigantic of a reach for a big guy. Ciryl Gane has a bigger reach from him. So he was able to kind of pot shot from the outside and be able to get away from Tom's big punches. That leads me to the second thing. He didn't have a lot of strike variety. His main stuff is a 1-2 down the pipe. 1-2, 1-2, and he's knocked a lot of guys out like that. He's really good with that jab, but because of the length from Ciryl, he wasn't able to really get in. Ciryl also was doing this thing where he would know that was coming, and he kind of covered up. He would kind of cover up, and if things went wrong, he knew that was coming, so he would try to create space and cover up. He knew that it was going to come straight through the pipe, so he kind of went straight into this, and he kept doing this, backing away if he got a little scary inside, and then he would dance around and run away. Another thing that ended up happening was he was trying to finish that fight early. All of the talk of John Jones finishing him in 2 minutes, he was putting a lot of power on this, and you could see him kind of shaking out and like doing these weird moves. Like he did a spinning move. Like that's not like a I'm in the zone move. That's kind of like a I'm frustrated or I'm tired and I don't want to throw these same punches, so I'm going to do some weird thing. So it was out of character for him, but I think that was taking a lot of gas out of him because he had been finishing fights so easily so early. And he thought to himself, well, if I just touch this guy, I've been touching people and they've been falling asleep. All I got to do is just land once. And so I'm going to put all these shots in. And Gane was getting the better of him in the exchanges. And he was dancing away from him and then even pressuring him a little bit. It was a very, very interesting fight. He would get in and then dance away and then pressure and get away. And so there was a lot of action, even though there was only 4 minutes and change that went on in the fight. There was a decent amount of action, but Tom wasn't able to really get that hard punch because Ciryl was covering up so well and had that distance to be able to get away from him. So it was kind of frustrating. And when you put a lot of effort into those punches, thinking that you're going to get out of there, there's kind of an adrenaline dump, and there's also this stamina thing. So I think that was another weakness that we saw is the stamina from that high-powered output of Tom, especially when, not like in other fights, he had an expectation that he was going to finish this fight early. He looked a lot more calm and relaxed in the other fights that he was fighting, and that's how those things happened, I believe. Whereas in this fight, you could see when he engaged, he was trying, it seemed like he was trying to finish the fight because he had this pressure of the 2 minutes from John Jones. All we know about what John Jones did to him. So there's these pressure aspects that I think forced him into being a different fighter than he was normally used to. Now, this is going to play into the rematch. I think that Tom is going to learn from that. I think that it's going to be a completely different fight. But these weaknesses still are things that are outside of Tom's control. Some of them are outside of his control. The length is outside of his control. Okay, he can switch up the strike variety, but then that might leave him open for other strikes from Gane. So this is an interesting dynamic, and I think the rematch is going to be really, really good. So that's that. Now the length thing also comes into play, and again, how is he going to reconcile this with the length for takedowns? His arms aren't super long. You saw when he tried to do that takedown, because Gane is so long and he can take one step and be far away and then also use to push off, it doesn't seem like he's going to have the same success of takedowns unless if they end up getting close and clinched. But also, Gane is pretty strong and he's big, and I think he has worked on his takedown defense. I think he talked about how somebody said one of his coaches said he wasn't working on takedowns or takedown defenses, stuff like that. He's like, hey, I'm not going to focus on my weaknesses. I'm going to focus on my strengths. I think he was just saying that now that we look at that fight because he looked pretty good. So the spacing that Gane was able to have, he was still able to get off, but he was able to have this spacing, and it just looked like Tom was a little bit flustered, and you could see that when he was doing these spinning attacks. So there was lots of different aspects of Tom's game combined with Ciryl's game, plus just the physical dynamics between the two. Tom is a big guy. I think he's taller than Gane, but his length isn't there, and the athleticism was matched. I mean, I saw a video of Gane, doing like a windmill dunk on a basketball hoop. The guy is very athletic and he can move. And so I don't think Tom's fought anyone like that. I think he's a very unique person. And because he wasn't able to land the takedown and take him down because Ciryl's long and strong, it's going to be a very, very weird, rematch in regard to the takedown defense. Now, I think he can clean up his striking, be more relaxed, and have a lot more success on the feet. But because, like I said, that pressure was getting to him, I think he was a little bit flustered. Well, this is the number one thing that I think Ciryl Gane exposed in the fight. It wasn't apparent in the fight. It was apparent after the fight, was Tom's attitude. Tom is very relaxed, chill, kind of rolls with the punches, has a good sense of humor, right? Doesn't seem like he takes himself very seriously. Seems like he can be calm in the moment. Okay, well, we saw the exact opposite of that. And this is what made me less of a fan. I'm going to be honest. I was a huge fan of Tom Aspinall. There was a lot of pressure on this fight. I wanted him to knock him out in 1 minute. And I'm watching this happen. I'm going, oh shit, this is going to be a longer fight than we thought. And he's going to have to really figure this out. As the fight went on, even though it was only 4 minutes, I'm looking at him going, this is not good. This looks really bad. And so I look at the attitude then after the eye poke. He got raked. It was really bad. He got warned before. By all means, not good, okay? He has every right to be upset. But there was a pivotal moment at the end of the fight when they were calling the fight where Jason Herzog says to Tom, he turns over and he's got his hands on him, he says, and Tom is still so upset, as he should be, right? But Herzog says to him, it's all how you react, to how you respond, to something to the effect of it's all how you react in these next minutes. Because he knows that microphone is going in his face. Tom does not listen to Herzog, and he goes full heel, emotionally, again, not his character, emotionally upset. Why the fuck are you booing? All right, I got raked in the eye. All right, he got warned. So upset. I think he was also being egged on by his team. You could hear them in the background, all right, when the replay was up there. What the fuck is that type of thing? And I looked at that and I go, oh, that is not the response that we're looking for. Hey, even if a guy cheats, even if a guy does that, all right, you have to roll with it, okay? The fight got called off. There's nothing that you can do about it, all right? You didn't lose the fight. Let's move on, all right? It sucks. You don't know how bad the damage is, okay? But you have to, in those moments, all right, be a professional. I thought on the other side, Gane was much more professional about it. He's like, I'm sorry to the fans. I'm sorry to Tom. I'm sorry to, you know what I mean? It's like, but sometimes these things happen. And it's like, they do. Whether or not Gane meant to do it, I know a lot of people think he meant to do it, okay? Even if let's just say he didn't. Those things happen all the time where you get warned and then you do it again, all right? It happens. Even if he did it on purpose, all right? Those things happen, okay? And so this is why they take a point. They don't stop the fight. If it was that bad, they would stop the fight off of any eye poke if you got warned and you did it again. They don't have those rules in regulation. Now, maybe they should. Maybe this is an argument for that. But you have to kind of move on. And that's Gane's French attitude, which is kind of like, you know what? Hey, this thing happened, but we have to move on. And it's like, he was sorry for it and he was kind of professional. He looked upset about it, of course. But it's like, at the end of the day, you got to move on. They called no contest, all right? You couldn't go on, all right? Shit happens. If it was the other way around, you don't think that it would be, again, you have to put yourself in the other fighter's shoes. These things happen. And the response from Tom, especially after, you could hear it on the broadcast, Herzog sees how emotional he is, and he's probably thinking like me, this is not Tom. This is not the cool, calm, relaxed guy that I'm used to. He's freaking out. This is how it's all about how you respond in these next minutes. And Tom goes completely the other way, does not calm down, doubles down on it, is super pissed off. He looked so flustered. I don't know if how this is gonna affect the rest of his time, all right? I don't know how bad the eye is gonna be. It seems like the report is that there's no long-term damage, but you never know. But I looked at that and I go, that's a huge weakness that Ciryl accidentally or on purpose, like you said, he exposed. If I'm Ciryl Gane in that rematch, I come out and I kick him right in the nuts. I'm committing I will go down 1 point just to fluster this guy. Look, you might sit here and say, JD, you're a cheat. That's this. Look, I want to win, and I know his weak point. His weak point is if you fluster him, if it seems like things are unfair, he loses his mind. I've never seen that character in him before, and the fact that that happened in his response like that, especially after someone like Herzog, who's neutral, he doesn't care, all right? He saw the fury inside of Tom, and he's like, you gotta figure this out. And he didn't say, you need to chill. He said, it's all how you respond in these next minutes. And he did nothing like calm down. He went harder in the paint on this whole thing. And that is not a good look. That made me less of a fan of him. I'm going to be honest. I was a huge fan of him. I'm less of a fan of him because of that moment. And I know what you're saying. How would you react? I don't know how I would react. I don't know how anyone should react. But I do know that you have to move on and you have to go, let bygones be bygones. It was a no contest. They're going to get a rematch. Okay? And that was not a good look. And it exposes a big weakness for Tom is when controversy happens, how are you going to respond? So now I know as a fighter, if I'm Ciryl Gane, I know that if I fluster this guy, right? If I get under his skin, he is not going to respond like the cool cucumber that we've seen him. We saw it, all right? That was crazy behavior. It wasn't crazy. It was well warranted. He got poked in the eye, of course. But I guarantee you, there's other guys that get poked that move on, all right? No matter if it was no contest or not. You've got to move on. Now, how Tom responds after this, who knows? But I know that if there's controversy, if there's some sort of thing happening, all right, I can get under this guy because it happened once. If it happened once, it can happen again. So if I'm Ciryl, I'm looking for those types of things. I'm looking to get underneath his skin. I'm looking to, in the fight, grab a glove, grab the cage, do something to get him thinking about me cheating again so that he's thinking about that and he's not thinking about how to be the best Tom Aspinall. These are tactics that everyone who plays any sort of competitive sport understands. And if you don't know that, and if you think that you've never really played sports before. I'm not saying that I condone people cheating and doing these things, but this is how you gain a competitive advantage over your opponent. You have to play the physical game and the mental game. Every good coach does this. Every good player's done this. If you're not paying attention to that and if you think that your guy doesn't do that, you're out of your mind. I don't care what sport it is. There are these mind games going on in subtle ways that you might not have noticed, in big ways and obvious ways, are the ways that we normally catch them, like one of these situations. But in subtle ways, if you can do that, you can then get a little bit of an advantage over your opponent if you know that they respond that way. Some people don't. Some people, you do something and it brings out a beast in them and they become more laser focused and more of a champion, more of a better person, all right, through that. So it doesn't work on all people. The same strategies don't work on all people, and that's for us to find out. I think that was one of the chinks in the armor of Tom Aspinall, along with the other things, the strike variety, the length, okay, the takedowns, okay. There's a lot of things that Tom's, I think, has to work on if he's going to be successful against against Gane in the next fight. But I think the number one thing that he's got to focus on is that attitude. I really believe it. And that's so strange for me to say because that was such a huge strength, I thought, for him. He was so cool. He was so relaxed. But you could tell by the way that he fought the fight that he wanted to beat him faster than John Jones did, That pressure from John, the John annoyance got to him. As much as he didn't sound like it, it got to him. And like I said, how could getting poked in the eye, or how could John Jones screwing around with you for almost a year not affect you? It affects you. It affects anyone. But again, you got to move on. You got to figure out a way to be the best self. And he wasn't his best self on that night, and it showed. How's he going to respond to that? How's he going to get better? How's he going to address these things? Because if you don't think Ciryl Gane is looking at that fight and watching what happened and doing exactly what I'm doing right now, he's going to expose those things even more, or at least he's going to try to in that next fight. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next. I'm looking forward to it. And there's controversy in the heavyweight division, which is what we needed, right? Everybody says that this division is crappy. Now we've got something, okay? So good stuff. Until next time, I will see you then.